Today we're doing a full tour of Villers Abbey in Belgium. The tour starts in the old Abbey Mill, where you can buy your tickets and get some souvenirs. The abbey was founded in 1146 by French Cistercian monks from Clairvaux. They were invited by Sir Gauthier de Marbet and his mother Judith. De Marbet provided the grounds. The construction of the Gothic abbey started in 1197. Between 1508 and the end of the 17th century, the monks had to leave the abbey 9 times because of wars. In the 18th century, the abbey was thriving again and the palace and gardens were constructed. There's a busy road running right through the abbey. And a train track. You can cross the busy road via a bridge in the old apothecary. In 1796, the monks were driven out by French troops. The abbey was sold to a building merchant. He used the buildings as a quarry. In the 19th century, the ruins became a major tourist attraction. We start the tour in the Lay Brothers building. From the Lay Brothers building, we go into the kitchens. The kitchens were shared by the monks and the Lay Brothers. Next to the kitchen are the monks' gardens. From the kitchen we enter into the cloister, the heart of the abbey. To the right is the refectory. In the refectory, the walls were decorated with murals. The monks ate in total silence, but one monk would read to them. At the back of the cloister, near the church, is the tomb of Robert d'Aspremont. Robert was a crusader and later he became a monk at Villers Abbey. He died in 1263 because of an accident. He went on a mission and his horse bolted and he fell. He was badly wounded but still completed his mission, but when he returned to the abbey, he died a few days later in the infirmary. Jobert's tomb was erected by Guy de Dampierre, Count of Flanders. The rose we know is a reconstitution. The church was built in the 13th century, mostly in the Gothic style. It's 90 meters long and 25 meters wide. On the left of the nave are 9 chapels. They were once richly decorated. The monks would have sat in the Jubei, separated from the lay brothers and outsiders. Some remainders of this wall can still be seen. Henry died in 1248 and he was buried in the church together with his wife Sophia of Thuringen. The location of the tomb is known and it was examined at least in the 19th century and in 1930. He was exhumed in 1930 and his remains were brought to the St. Peter's Church in Leuven. During a recent restoration, his remains were found in the tomb of his father, Henry I. He is now buried in the crypt of the church in Leuven. Henry II was very fond of Villers Abbey. Each year he had a tunic made of Villers linen to protect him. One of Henry's descendants, John III, also Duke of Brabant, is also buried at Villers Abbey. John died in 1355. His tomb was before the altar. Via the north door of the church you can go up some stairs and there you end up at a small chapel. The chapel lies on a terrace where you have a good overview of the complete abbey. At the other end of the terrace, a path leads towards some more buildings on the west side of the abbey. The largest building is the old guest house. It was built in 1240 and later became the brewery of the abbey. At this point we were ready to leave, but then we checked the map and we saw that we'd missed quite a big portion of the abbey. So we went back inside via the Lay Brothers building. Next to Gower's tomb is the armarium. This is where the books of the abbey were kept. 12,000 of the books were burned by the French. Next to the armarium is the chapter room. Every day after morning prayers, the monks sat down on benches along the walls. Abbot presided over the daily reading of a chapter from the Rule of Saint Benedict. The chapter room was also the place where the problems were discussed, where the abbot was elected and where admission of novices was discussed. Near the chapter room is the parlour. This is the only place where the monks were allowed to talk. In other rooms they used sign language. The dormitory or sleeping quarters of the monks. In the beginning it was one large hall, later it was divided into cubicles. In the 13th century, the warming room was the only heated room in the abbey. It was, along with the kitchen, the only room with a chimney. Later on, more chimneys were added to the abbey. 4 times a year, the monks had to undergo a bloodletting in this room. This was meant to cure diseases and get rid of their bad humours. The monks' room is the room where the monks wrote and studied. The abbot's palace was constructed in 1721. It had a round room decorated with glass panels and it had a nice feature. When one touched the spring, portraits of all the abbots would appear. There was also a tower or a glass dome where one could oversee the whole abbey. Underneath the abbot's palace there are large cellars. When an abbot died, he would be buried in a coffin and placed in these cellars. In the abbot's gardens there are stairs leading up to some terraces. This is where the train track goes through the garden. Montague Chapel was built in 1616 and it had a miraculous statue of the Virgin Mary in it. Ruined. The track is a bit of a shame. The prisons are near the garden. Whoa. They're very dark and the cells are small. Of course, the ruins are haunted. According to legend, there's a treasure hidden somewhere in the abbey. Each year, at a given time, a monk will appear and cry,
"Thank heavens, it's still here."
Each cell has a latrine. Right, I'ma head out. See you soon. Probably not.